This is the Parramatta Podcast, proudly brought to you by major sponsor Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, Beau Cook from Loan Market, BTZD, the official apparel partner of the Parramatta Podcast, and the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Parramatta Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Parramatta Podcast. And now over to your host, Troy Warner, broadcasting live from the world-famous Parramatta.
And yes, hello and welcome back to another cracking episode of the Parramatta Podcast. And it's back to the interview-style podcast this week. And today I have an interview with a player who played for the club that I love, the Parramatta Eels, in 2 stints. And in between that, also played for the South Sydney Rabbitohs and also the Illawarra Steelers as well. He is known as one of the biggest and hardest hitters in rugby league. Many a former player have said his name as the hardest player who tackled in the game when they played, and also a lot of commentators as well. And he goes by the nickname of the Hitman, and when you see some of his hits you will know why. And I am talking about Mr. Peter Johnston. Now, Peter played for, as I said, the Parramatta Eels, the South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Illawarra Steelers. And I actually caught up with Peter a few weeks ago at the Blue and Gold Alliance reunion that was held over the weekend of the Dragons game a few weeks ago. And I caught up with Peter at Parramatta Eels Club for the breakfast sort of barbecue and get together before the game in the car park at Parramatta Eels Club. And it was great to catch up with him. Now, it was all organised by the Blue and Gold Alliance, which is for all past players, coaches and officials of the Parramatta Eels. And it's a charity foundation, and they help raise funds for, as I said, past players, coaches and officials as well. So you can check them out at blueandgoldalliance.com.au, and if you also check them out there, they also have a store with some great merchandise available for purchase and to support the Blue and Gold Alliance, a great charity. And the Blue and Gold Alliance merchandise that you can purchase includes polo shirts, supporter jackets, a hoodie, shorts, singlet, and a great looking backpack as well as a bucket hat as well. And they are all made, of course, by one of the sponsors of the Parramatta Podcast, BTZD Clothing. So head to that website, blueandgoldalliance.com.au, click on the store link and check out that supporter gear that you can get there and help the Parramatta Eels past players, officials and coaches. A great charity event there. So that's where I saw Peter. That's where we arranged to do this chat, and it was a great chat with him. He's so passionate about the game of rugby league. Some really interesting stories thrown in there about his playing days. Also a little bit about the game today as well. A great story about one of his debut games against the Panthers and one Mark Geyer. So great little story there. And something that I didn't know about Peter, that he is the nephew of a great Australian Olympian as well. So talk a little bit about that one as well. So very interesting story. As I said, I could have talked to Peter for hours about rugby league. Some great stories there, and I hope you really enjoy them. I'm hoping to maybe catch up again with Peter in a few weeks' time to talk some more rugby league as well. So stay tuned for that one. Now, this wouldn't be at all possible without the help of the sponsors. Major sponsor, Jack's Pale Ale, exclusively available at Parramatta Eels Club, where I met Peter for the first time. And it's the Jack's Pale Ale exclusively available there. Beau Cook from Loan Market, Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty, the Parramatta Times, the official media partner of the Paracave podcast, and also, as I mentioned, the teamwear supplier of the merchandise for the Blue and Gold Alliance, BTZD Teamwear, also the official apparel sponsor of the Paracave podcast. So more details about the sponsors and also the Paracave podcast merchandise still available for purchase after the chat with Peter. But enough of me talking. Let's get into Peter and his rugby league story. So as Hindy says,
get a beer, coffee, whatever you want.
Sit back, relax and enjoy, and let's get straight into it.
Hi, this is Peter Johnston, former Parramatta first grade front rower, South Sydney Illawarra player, chatting with Troy on the Parramatta podcast about all things current in Parramatta this year and in the past and in rugby league in general. Looking forward to a chat.
And as you just heard, my guest today on the Paracave podcast is a former NRL or New South Wales Rugby League player, ARL player as it was back in the day for Parramatta Eels, the club that I love, the South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Illawarra Steelers. Played 134 games in the top grade. Welcome to the Paracave podcast, Mr. Peter Johnston.
Thanks, Troy. Nice to be here. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you very much for joining me. Now, growing up in the Hills District, I believe, did rugby league find you, or did you find rugby league?
I know a bit of both. I think back in the day when I grew up in the 70s and 80s at Castle Hill, rugby league was always a big sport because there wasn't many professional sports back then, and certainly it was the main sport on television. And I had three brothers, and my brother always bought the Rugby League Week, and that's how we were always familiar with the players. And that and believe it or not, we're eastern suburbs. Well, even though we live in the Parramatta area, we like Parramatta, but
okay,
we loved eastern suburbs.
Okay,
Artie Beetson,
yep,
Artie Beetson, and Russell Fairfax, and Schubert, John Brass, and I remember listening and following East when they won the grand final in 74 and 75. And that was a big thrill for us. And we followed the Roosters, and many times we went to the games with our parents. They took us out to the sports ground, the old days when they had the sports ground, Grass Hill, and we enjoyed many days out there. We'd get there after soccer. We'd go to play soccer in the morning or whatever, because I didn't play rugby league in those days.
Okay.
And we'd all go out with a packed lunch and sit on the hill. And I remember back in those days, in the late 70s, Eastern Suburbs, they were probably the only team that didn't have cheer girls. So all the young supporters, we'd get our flag. We'd get our flag. We'd make a little tunnel for them to all run through. There's maybe 15, 20 of us, 10 either side. And back in those days, things weren't as strict, if you like, for security and that. And we'd get on the pitch on the sports ground. And then I remember clearly after every game, you'd run on the pitch and pat the players on the shoulder and that. And so that's where my passion, if you like, for rugby league came. I followed, I certainly knew I had an older brother and a younger brother.
Yep.
They both played a bit of rugby league later, and then they stopped. I always had a passion, but we certainly loved Parramatta. And I remember the neighbour across the road in 1976 when I was 8 years old. He loved Parramatta.
Okay.
And we made the grand final for the first time ever. and we all went to the game and sat in the Sheridan stand, the old Sheridan stand, an old historic stand down the southern end. And Parramatta played Manly in the grand final, and they lost, but it was a really good game, and the atmosphere was sensational. The crowd in those days, I mean, it's probably the same as it is today, but all packed in the hill, and the flags. It was just, I still remember visions of it now. And John Peer doing the bomb, and the amount of streamers and crowd was just intense. It was really good atmosphere. And I remember I went to a reunion. That's why I bumped into you last week, Troy.
Yep.
And I mentioned Ray Price. I watched him. Ray Price, he just switched from rugby union in 75. I thought it was 76. I said to my, I was only 8 years old. I said, no. He said, no, that was my second year I played to 75. So, but I remember that grand final. And then my auntie, we were fortunate enough to grow up over the years. My auntie was Betty Cup, the Olympic runner.
Okay.
And she was on the Sydney Cricket Ground Trust for several years, and as a benefit of that, she got lifetime members tickets.
Oh, nice.
And because she didn't she wasn't married or no children, so my mum's a twin sister of Betty.
Okay.
So we got tickets all the time, and so 76 we sat in Sheridan, but after that point, from 77 to about 87 to about 97, would have been my auntie passed away. 2017. So for 30 years, we received members' tickets, and we'd all go. So I remember the grand final. I remember Peter Sterling's first game when he played for Parramatta at fullback.
Oh, yeah.
In the semi-final replay. And it was on a Tuesday back in those days. They had Manly and Parramatta drew in semi-final. There was a couple of drawn semi-final matches in the late 78 or 79. I think it was 78. There might have been a couple of drawn. And Sterling made his debut at fullback in one of the games, and they played Manly, and we're in the Noble stand from that point on. After that, not Noble, we're in the Sheridan for the old stand when we paid, but then when we got the member tickets, we're in the Noble stand.
Okay.
And we're in the Noble stands many years. And I went on to see the Parramatta 77 grand final. So we're on the hill. We went home before the game because the crowd was so intense. Only small kids, and we just couldn't handle it. The packed crowd, but enough that point. 78, I think it's 79. Parra got the finals. We saw him in the Sheridan, and we were there. And I saw him in the first grand final, 81, 82, 83. Saw those finals, 84.
Wow.
I didn't see 86. I wasn't home. I was doing the travel after I left school in 85, but I didn't do any. But so everyone, the first three grand finals, and. So having said that, I wasn't a big Parramatta fan as such, but I followed. I was a fan, but East was our favourite side. But when I got my opportunity to play for Parramatta, it was a thrill for me, and so it was just great. But it brings back, speaking about it now, it brings back a lot of memories. So not a football nut, but I was aware. We loved it all. We loved it. We played a lot so I did a lot of athletics as a kid. Middle distance training and that, so I had a mixed sporting background.
Was that athletics, as you did as a kid, was that the influence of your auntie? And what was it like growing up, having a famous Olympic runner? Yeah, we had a little bit of influence. We certainly had the influence, and then when I had two brothers and a sister, brother 4 years older, 4 years younger, and a sister 2 years older, and we all did compete at state level and that. And my brother and I, the older brother, competed at Australian. We both won Australian titles at under 12s. It was a bit often we'd be in the paper occasionally if we had before the state representative fixtures in March. People would be interested because our auntie was Betty Cuthbert and that. But those genetics, I think, they get passed down a bit because they helped us with our. I'm sure, we were certainly gifted a little bit in that area, with the running and that end up, so it does work. But the influence. I remember Auntie Betty come to sick because she was sick with MS from I think the age of 20. I think that she was diagnosed about 30. Okay.
So all the years even when we were growing up, she wasn't the best in the best of health,
Yeah.
But I think she did come. I remember her coming to watch us one time in the state final on that. But yeah, certainly just to have that influence in your life and that history of your family, it's certainly an inspiration, you know.
Oh, definitely interesting story there, and yeah, Betty Cuthbert, Australian Olympic legend.
Yeah, she passed away in 2017 from, and because she battled with MS all her life, you know.
Yeah,
So she had a gifted life in some ways when she's young, but for most of the life, really, people don't see she battled with the disease, you know, and she certainly had a lot of struggles, you know.
that's it. Gone but never forgotten. That's for sure. Now, you said you played soccer there for a while there. When did you start playing rugby league, and how did you find your way to the Parramatta Eels?
As a kid, I did athletics and soccer.
Yep.
I played for the Hills I played for Borkham Hills and Hills Independent, and I enjoyed the soccer. And I played, and then at school, I had my first year of rugby league at 13.
Okay.
I played an upper year age because my mates were playing. That's the only reason why I played. My mates, because my the older brother played a bit of football. He's 4 years older. When I was about that age or younger, a little bit younger maybe, and he got injured a little bit.
Okay.
Got a lot of black eyes and he broke his nose and that. And Mum and Dad didn't like it.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah.
He'd leave school at 16 to work as a carpenter, get an apprenticeship, and he had to miss school and miss work, and he missed a bit of school in the preceding years. So they were never a big fan. But my little brother started playing. But then I played a couple of years with my mates. I was 13 playing under 14, but it didn't. I only played with the mates. That's the only reason why I played.
Okay, yeah.
And that's why I learned to tackle around the legs, always around the legs, low and hard around the legs, because I wasn't a very big guy. You know, they were all a year younger than me.
Yeah.
Then I had a couple of years of playing rugby union at school when I was 15, and I played 16, 17s rugby union. We played for the school, Oakville College. And incidentally, the last game of rugby at school, we played Ricky Stewart's St Edmunds Canberra in the final of the Waratah Shield of the SCG back in 1985 before a test match.
Yeah.
And that was that's the first time I've seen Ricky Stewart. Then when tell me he was a brilliant rugby union player.
Okay, yeah.
Good at league, but I know everyone probably knows he's a brilliant rugby union player, and he was a schoolboy, and he was an experienced player, and he just tore us to pieces in about the first 15 minutes, and we got a shock. I think that game we lost. We won the second half. We beat them. I think we scored one try to their none. Yeah. But they beat us convincingly in the game. But and then what happened? I left school 17, and I always had an ambition to travel around Australia. When I left school, before I left school, and I went and followed through and did it. Okay. Went around Australia, bought a HQ hold, 1978 HQ3 on the tree. Holden, and left with about $950 in my bank account, and drove. My mates and that, there's three of us were going to do. They all backed out in the end.
Oh,
one
no.
One had left in year 10. He said, I can't get the time off. So I said, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
So I went to Polly's for one day to do primary school teaching. I remember I got my first morning tea, and I looked up. I thought, this is not what I want to do. I thought, I want to go around Australia. So Mum and Dad weren't too keen, but I was pretty determined. And saved a bit of money, got a HQ hold, drove to Canberra, and I wanted to look for work straight away because I didn't have much money. So I got work as a brickies labourer, set up a tent in the caravan park there. Brickies labour for about 6 weeks. I discovered I had an uncle living down in Queanbeyan.
Oh, okay.
Lived there for a while, stayed in Canberra 6 to 8 weeks. 2 months, probably 2.5 months, and then drove. My mate joined me. Eventually got the idea he wanted to. Again, he joined me. We drove all the way down the south coast, Bells Beach, Adelaide, Perth, and we surfed to that. And then he wanted to stay there surfing. I didn't. I wanted to go. I said my goal was to go all the way around Australia. So I sent the car home and hitchhiked all the way from Perth to Darwin, to Alice Springs, to Cairns, to home to Sydney. Got home in about November, the end of the year, 86. That's why I missed Parramatta's 86 grand final.
No, I saw all the other ones.
I was out at the time on an island called Rottnest Island off Perth, working in washing dishes and surfing and that. I remember ringing the day. Back in those days, there was no mobile phones. I remember Mum worked for Telstra as a cleaner. So I used to ring her for nothing. That was a good advantage of her working there.
Yeah, definitely.
And I'd given up football, but I come back and my mates were playing Parramatta Rugby Union down the what are they called, the Colts Parramatta Rugby Union. I said, I'll give it a go. Yeah, I'll give it a go. Play with your mates again. So that was 87, start of 87 season. I went down, played a little bit, and as it turned out, got right into it. We ended up being in the grand final, lost the grand final, but I made the New South Wales side for rugby.
Okay.
And I thought, then because I always had ambitions of perhaps going back to athletics.
Yep.
Well, that was my goal, to go back to athletics. I thought, Olympics and that, because I was quite a good middle distance runner when I was a kid. I've got some records and that.
Okay.
And Australian titles, and then I thought, that was my ambition, and I thought, and I just something everyone kept, and it just hit me one day. I thought, I'm probably too big for running now, middle distance running. So I stuck with Union League, and then start of '88, I think I went down to Parramatta Rugby Union again. I thought I was graded that. I was out of the Colts in open grade. I was turning 20, and then I thought to myself, after a while, I thought, my goal was, and a lot of blokes for those days of publicity, they were switching from Union to League and getting the good money, because Union was still amateur. And I thought, I'll do the same thing. And then one day it occurred to me, I thought, a lot of politics in rugby. I thought, I made up my mind. I thought if I could make Australia in rugby, but I probably couldn't do it till I'm 25, 26, if I was at Randwick or a club more favourable, I'd make it at 21. I thought, no, I'm just going to control my own destiny. So I thought, I'm just going to go down and get some experience playing rugby league again and try out for Parramatta 21s, because I thought there was it still is now 21s. I thought I didn't want to try it as an open player, because I'd be up against really experienced players, but as a 21s, that was a cut-off year 88 for me. So I went to play the Hills District. Had a pretty good year. I had a few injuries and that, and I had still a bit of uncertainty. I thought, will I have a try at it? Anyway, as it turned out, I had a trial in 88. And when John Maney, and I remember John Maney come up, because I got the word out to a few people that I knew who knew some contacts at Parramatta. I said, let them know I'm coming, or do you know such and such? As a young kid, you're always hunting out opportunities, anyone who knows anyone.
Yeah, they're definitely,
and then
sure.
John Maney knew, and then when I got down there, a bloke from Hills had spoken to John Maney, so he knew that I was coming to try out, and I was doing okay that year from a rugby background. And then I remember getting my brother at that point was in the Parramatta under SG ball, under 19s. Yeah, I remember he got home from training one night. I said, this is one of the selectors or the administrators was involved in his team. I said, they hadn't chosen the team. I said, how'd it go? And he said, you got in.
Oh, wow.
I still remember that day. Once I got in, I thought, now I can control my own destiny,
Yeah.
And that was a big moment for me. And I got into the Parramatta 21 squad for the next year. And then I think a month later, maybe in October, because that was September 88, October, I remember I got a call from Dennis Fitzgerald, come down the club, and they signed me up to a contract for just a 1 year deal. And I was just stoked. I thought I was never been so excited. I thought I could not believe that I was going to get paid to do something I love to do.
Yeah, wow.
That was my goal. My goal was to be a professional athlete and to play. I was good. I liked the footy, but because of those days running, there was no money in running, or there wasn't the only sports, even though the only real professional sports were probably rugby union, wasn't it? Cricket really. Cricket was one day. It was probably cricket and rugby league.
Yeah,
soccer didn't appear to be a profile,
That's it. Well,
so that's how it started. So I did 88, then I signed 88, had my first year in 89, and then went from there.
That's it. Well, you make your debut on July 2, 1989 against St George at Cogger Oval with such Parramatta legends as Brett Kenny, Eric Groth, Peter Sterling. Was first grade everything you thought it was going to be like?
Yeah, yes, it was. I do remember that game, and I do remember it was. But I come off the bench that game.
Yeah.
The game when I made my debut was what I call my proper debut was against Penrith. With about 5 rounds to go. It would have been round 17, and then we were playing up against Mark Geyer, and the Penrith were a pretty good side because they won the comp in. They won one in 1990 or 91, but they were pretty strong. They got the grand final in 90. They were on the way up, so they were a pretty strong team. But I do remember the St George game, coming off the bench. So yeah, it wasn't a starting team, but yeah, it was a thrill for me just to. I couldn't believe it. Even now, when I look back, I played with Sterling Kenny.
Yeah.
Because I made my mind. I was just a kid and they were legends of the game,
Yeah.
always, and to think it's all past them. I played with them and against them too. Because when I left to play for South my first year, first game we played was back at Parramatta, and Sterling Kenny were playing.
Yeah, that's it. What was it like playing against big Mark Geyer?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, well, you know what? This is what always stayed in my mind, Troy, and I wish my first debut game was against Mark Geyer, Penrith, and Mark Geyer was one of the he was only 21, I was 21, I think he might have been 22, he's a year older than me, or under a year, but I remember the whole focus of the week, there seemed to be this fear of Mark Geyer.
Okay, wow.
It really stuck to me. I thought, and what stuck in mind? The players don't really. In first grade, it's a human nature. People don't really worry about so much. The ones that are on their mind so much, not the ones that can score the tries and get the points on, but the ones that can physically hurt them, and the ones they've got to look for. Because Mark Guy had a real reputation in coming out of the line and doing the shoulder charges, angling in, and he's very good and very effective. And he seemed to have his best form in those days, the late 89, 90, 91 when they won the grand final. But that was something I remembered from the week, how the focus, particularly the forwards, and I was only a young guy coming in, but it was a tough initiation, first game at Penrith Park, but I survived and it was good, mate. Yeah, you learn, life is a learning process, but footy you learn. And I particularly I always thought it held me back a little bit because I didn't have the experience in rugby league. I had those couple of years when I was younger, but I didn't really. It wasn't good coaching. I was playing up here, and I was just a little tackling machine. And when I come back in 88 to play Hills District, went down to Hills District from Parramatta Rugby Union, I played 10 games. So I only 10 games, and I played 5 or 6 games of the next year. I got injured, and then after 5 or 6 games, I was in first grade. And I thought I didn't really have much experience, I could tackle because that was my best attribute, my athleticism. I had the athleticism, the fitness, the strength, the toughness, if you like, but what held me back particularly early, and probably as my career went on, I didn't have the experience. Yeah. I often think if I had a little bit more experience at a younger age, it would have been, I could have done some better things, but just in attack, with the ball skills and that sort of thing. But I got by, and mate, it was good. I ended up having 5 games in 89. I think the next week we played Balmain at Parramatta Stadium. No, sorry, the next week I played Penrith. I did have that St George game off the bench, but the next week was Penrith, and we played Brisbane up at Brisbane. And it would have been 50,000 plus. This one they used to get the massive crowds at Lang Park. Yeah. Wally Lewis, Gene Miles, Greg Dowling, and they beat us, but it was but we were still in the hunt. We were on the fringe of the semis, and I remember Brett Kenny had a real good game that game, and it was just good playing with those legends. Wally Wynn was a real inspiration when I first came in. Yeah, first few games he was captain for those remaining. And I always say to Wally when I see him, I still remember those inspirational talks before the game. Wally, I always kid him, but he was really good. He's real passionate and really motivated, and I like that, And the next game, I think we played the Sunday. I played Penrith, one of the top sides, Brisbane, and then back at Parramatta Stadium, Balmain with Wayne Pearce, Blocker Roach, Paul Searan, and Benny Elias. Bruce Maguire had a good side, and so 3 weeks in a row we played. And then I think the last game I played that year was a night game, North Sydney. And then there was one more, the last game of the season. I can't remember what that one was. But
I think Newcastle.
Newcastle, was it?
Yeah, up in Newcastle.
Up in Newcastle. Yes. I do remember now. Right. I can't. I usually remember every game, but I can't remember that game. What Newcastle? I remember being up there, but that was the last game of the year, right? There you go.
That's it. Up against Chief Harrigan and the lot.
Yeah. I went on my first year of league in 89 because I played. I started with the 21s and I got injured, I started 21s, and then who was the coach? John Main, and he put me in the higher grades and for a couple of trials, and I played in the sevens. I remember he picked me in the sevens team.
Okay.
Like that, I played that on a Saturday. That was before the sevens used to pull a big crowd, just the days.
Yeah.
And then he put me in a game against Cronulla, and I did what I set out running rugby. You take the ball up and you turn a bit, because rugby, that's what you do in the old days, particularly when you turn and more.
Yeah.
So I got hit the shoulder and I did my AC joint.
Oh, no.
And then so I missed a lot of games. And I come back, only had 5. I had one game, that 89 year, one after that point when I come back, I had one game in 21s. I think I played 5 reserve grade games, and I was in first grade against Mark Ryan. And part of this, I said, I'd only had 10 games of rugby league in Park at the Hills, and one game of 21s, a couple of trial games, and then those 5 reserve grade games, and I was in first grade against Blocker Roach and Balmain. So I didn't have the experience, but what got me through was the background I think I had in running, and that I was fit, and I was mentally pushed myself, and that really has helped me through football for sure, that background.
So then, after your 3 years at Parramatta, you moved to South Sydney, proud old club in the rugby league. And as you said, you played against Parramatta at Parramatta Stadium that first game. What was it like? Was it a strange feeling returning to playing out of the away sheds?
Yeah, it was different, and it was a difficult decision for me to make, and I had a lot going on at that point. My father was sick. He got diagnosed with lung cancer, melanoma.
Yeah.
It would have been about probably the back third of the year, the 5 or 6 rounds to go, the 91 season of the 90 season. No, sorry, the 80. I don't know what year were you? 91. Yeah, no, 91. The 91 season, because the 91 season, and Parramatta. I was really keen, but I felt I was pretty inexperienced as a forward, but there didn't seem to be. There wasn't a lot of guys coming through. There didn't seem to be buying anybody, and I got a good offer. And then my dad was in hospital, and he ended up passing away in November of '91, and it was just a mix. And anyway, when I just got that offer in front of me, and I felt there was experience there. I just want to improve myself as a player. Okay. And I really felt, having talking to South and saw the team they had and the players and the forwards particularly, I thought it'd be a good opportunity. That's what I was looking for, just an opportunity to learn and grow as a player, to become better. And I just felt, that's what I felt at the time. And it was sort of a bit of a mixed year because there was a lot going on with my dad passing away. But it was to come back and play against Parramatta, it was tough. It was mentally, I had a lot going on, and then I had to prepare for the season. I think I missed the start of the preseason because my dad passed away, and I was travelling in from Castle Hill because I didn't move in the end because, as I said, my dad passed away. I thought I'd stay at home for a little bit longer, and tough off season, and then coming back in the first game, it was a big emotion to come back against your old club. It was tough. It was. How'd I go? I think I went all right. They beat us in the end. Was
there any sledging or head rubs or into the turf?
No. I always had respect for the guys that I played there, and I had respect for me. And I remember Peter Sterling was very good because he was still playing there. And I remember I discussed it with him one time, and I called around to his place because he lived up at Borkham Hills, which is fairly close to me. And I remember I said I was just confused, and he was open. He said, "Johnny, just do what you feel you want to do for yourself, mate. Like, you look after yourself. Look, how the best situation you can see yourself being in." And as I said, they were pretty supportive. There's no negative talk. No. And then I'm never. But to me, the game's always too hard. I've never got it. I see people talking, chatting, carrying, even the way players talk a bit after the game, and then I certainly had no energy to talk to anyone after the game. No. It was a different time. Maybe because they're full-time professionals, the game, they're full-time, and certainly players have a bit of interchange. A lot of forwards can make use of the interchange a little bit nowadays. But I certainly, mate, when I finish the game, the first thing I just want to get off the game and get a drink and sit down.
That's it. Well, I think by this stage of your career, you had been dubbed the Hitman for your clean, crisp, big hits. Do you remember who gave you that nickname? And
Yeah, I think, yes, I do remember clearly.
yeah,
That all happened. I used to get. I had one thing. So what I could. I wasn't really good in attack, but I always had the strength and the physicality about my game. I could tackle well. No one ever taught me how to tackle. I could tackle myself, and I learned to tackle harder, front-on tackles by myself. And I remember at Parramatta, I was starting to get a lot of head injuries and certainly cuts around the head, and I knocked myself out occasionally just trying to go too hard. But I remember it all changed a little bit. The first weekend in 91, I wore headgear.
okay,
And we played Manly down at Manly. And there was Ian, I remember the team. And I remember Mick said to me, Mick Cronin, I remember he called me up because I'd started doing some good hits. And I think I put the headgear on maybe 1 week before, because I was getting knocked out and getting cut, and I was off and on the field a little bit. I was in there to first grade in 1990. I'd played a few reserve grade games, so I didn't cement myself in first grade. And then I think 91, the same thing. I started, and I might have got dropped to the reserve grade, and then I played a good game. And Mick said, "John, I'm going to bring you up this weekend." But I started doing some good hits with tackle, and I just put the headgear on, so I was doing those tackles, and I felt so much more comfortable. I didn't feel the ricochet. Because even when you hit someone hard, if you have no head contact, it really jolts your body, and you do feel a bit of you feel. I used to feel dizzy. When I put the headgear on, I could not believe how comfortable it felt. I thought I could hit 30-40% harder.
Okay,
I could go in harder.
Just have that confidence.
Confidence.
Yeah.
And Mick said to me, I remember that game, and Tony Ira, if you remember second row from Manly, Tony Ira, he'd been started this 91 season really strong, was running wild. I remember he running 3 teams. And Mick said to me before the game, he called me over and he said, "John, before a train," he said, I remember he said, "John, I want you to go." He used the expression, "I just want you to try and shorten a few people up a bit, maybe Tony Ira." He's just trying to shorten him. He said, don't go silly, but just don't come out of the line, but just let him know you're there. And that's Mick had a way of explaining things. It kept it simple, but nothing illegal, but just wanted me to put. So I was psyched for a big game down at Brookvale Oval for that, and I thought, I just had the confidence, and I had a big off-season of the weights. I really worked hard on the weights.
Okay.
And anyway, and as I said, they had a good pack. Ian Roberts, and I can't remember who. I think they had John Jones, and they had a strong pack of forwards, Manly. And Tony Iro, as I said.
Yeah.
And I went down and I put a couple of hits on people. And Mick said to me after the game, and I think so that's when it started. That week then, it would have been 91, about April 91, down at Brookvale. That's when I first started doing some good hits. And Mick said to me at training, I remember when the team meeting, this is when everyone there, Sterling Kenny, said, "Jono, he said in front of the team, have a look at this." He said, "I want you to have a look at these hits." He said, Mick, as I said to Mick, when I saw him at a reunion last year, I said, "Mick, this is the biggest rap that's the biggest accolade I've ever received in rugby league."
Wow.
Mick said to me, Mick said in front of the team, he said, "Have a look at these hits." Mick said, "I've been in rugby league a long time." He said, "These 2 hits are probably the biggest and best hits I've ever seen in my life in rugby league."
Yeah, wow.
And Mick said that in front of the team, and he said it to me personally again, and he's told, I know people have been down to his pub, and I said, I encouraged him to ask, because I said, "Ask Mick about those hits," because Mick said to them, And then when I saw Mick there, he said, "Jono, I think you probably remember that we'd spoken about it." He said, "Jono, I still say those 2 hits, mate, they're as good as any hits I've ever seen in rugby league. 2 of the biggest best hits I've ever seen."
What a rap.
And then from that point on, I think we played a game in Perth against Cronulla, and I remember I was up against, there was Les Davidson, Craig Diamond, there's some good forwards, and we did a couple of good hits there. Then back at Parramatta Stadium that year, we did North Sydney, Mario Fennick in front row. Yeah. North, and I did a couple of shots. Like they just were successively become a build. But I remember I did. That's right. I played Balmain again at Wayne Pearce's probably the very first time I did a good, what I call a strong hit. was Wayne Pearce's last game at Leichhardt in 1990.
Yeah.
And I didn't have the headgear on, but I remember in the paper I read it and it said Peter Johnston did some thumping hits. And I thought that's what it's got. I just saw they weren't big hits, but I really thumping into people. And that's when I started getting the confidence. I thought I can put a bit into my tackle. But as I said, it developed at the end of 90, started 91, had a still bit of trouble with the concussion, put the headgear on. Once I put the headgear on, I just sailed away. I could really hit whatever I was putting in the tackling. I could do it 30 or 40% more confident and harder, I felt. And I just started, I made some impact with that. That was my best form of, that became my best form of attack,
What do you think of the tackling techniques of some of the players these days? I mean, we see so many of them going wrong and ending up in high hits and sin binnings. What are your thoughts on the tackling techniques these days?
There is no tackling technique, is it? It's rubbish. I mean, I look at it, but I can see what they're trying to do because the game has changed to the point where, it's all about the ruck. It become about the ruck. And Melbourne really introduced this and tried to streamline, you're introducing a little bit of it all sort of come out of Melbourne. It appears to be years ago, but everyone does it. Slow the ruck down, control the ruck, because the tactics where you control the ruck, you control the speed, the tempo of the game, and then you control the game. And so all this the locking, the chicken wing, grapple, whatever, it all come in. But you still appreciate a few guys that go out there and try and have good technique. Not many in sometimes it's more the outside. George Fafana, the Manly guy, he was a winger.
George Tafua.
George Tafua, he could really hit.
Yeah, definitely.
The Manly guy.
Steve Maddai as well.
Steve Maddai could hit. So there's a few guys, but I sometimes think that mentality, there's still opportunity. And if I was playing these days, I would still go out and whack them, because I tell you what, that's it stayed with me in my whole career that I never forgot. The influence, the impact Mark Guy had on the opposition, because I picked it up the first game I played for Parramatta. They weren't worried about Greg Alexander or their fast wingers or fullback. Mate, the players were worried. I could sense that they were worried about Mark Guy coming in, doing the big shoulder charge and knocking them out. So I thought they're the ones you think about before a game, the few. And so I think to myself, the players now, Blake should really try and put on maybe the game's quick. I know it's quicker and all that, but if you hit someone with a good shot, you slow them down, and you certainly put that doubt in their mind, and they'll be looking for you next time.
And then it's definitely going to give your teammates...
You gain respect, and you lift your teammates, because you certainly... Mick said to me, that's another thing Mick said, and I'll never forget what Mick said. He said, Jono, the best description I can say to you, mate, you're the player you'd rather play with than against.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's the best thing I can say about you. And I thought, I like that, and that's what I'm saying. You want to be out in the field, and that's what attracted me really about South Sydney too. Spud Carroll, they're all good mates of mine now. Spud's a good mate of mine.
Oh, no.
But I love playing with Spud. Because he just gives it everything. He puts it on the line, and he's not going to let you down, and he's going to go right. But so I do personally, I do wonder where it's gone. I wonder where these guys. That's why I think some of these forwards are having chit chat and opposition with the opposition after the game. I think, I don't know. I had that mentality. I didn't like the opposition. I mean, not personally, but you build up that mentality and the psyche before the game, and they're the opposition. And what do I think of it? I think it could be improved, but I wonder where it's been lost, the technique, training. We used to do a little bit of pad work and training on the pads, and to get tackle. Do they do it now? I don't know. They do it with all the lift and the hold the leg and twist. I don't know what they teach, but you got to look at the thing. The guys even coaching now, training now, they come through the wrestle technique era too. So it's probably going, the whole technique and the proper tackling basics might be going out the window now. No?
Well, I think Parramatta's struggling a little bit at the moment in defence, so we could probably certainly need yourself down there.
Well, pass on to Brad Arthur. Tell him I'm happy to come up and talk about and show the boys how to do some good front-on solid hits and with the right mentality, and know that when you do them, mate, they're obviously they're going to be looking for you, mate. So what I'm saying, that's how you slow them down. That's how you always, like back when we played, like there was a sense of intimidation. You know, you had to front up to the opposition and show that you could hold your own. Otherwise, you get walked over. So what I'm saying, I think that mentality and that psyche in the game still exists. But I like to see that too. He still displays it with the way he plays it. Jared Hargraves.
Yeah, no, definitely.
That guy, I do admire that guy. He's been around for a long time, and he's been up the top for nearly a dozen years, more than 10 years. He's been up the top of his game, you know. When he plays well, he's played well, you know.
He has. Well, you had a couple of years at the Illawarra Steelers, and then you returned back to the Parramatta Eels in 96 and 97. What was it like to have the Canterbury Four at Parramatta? Dean Pay, Jim Dimmick, Jason Smith and Jared McCracken.
Oh, it was great. And it was good. And I spoke to Chris King. He was a good mate of mine at Parramatta.
Yeah.
And I spoke to him at a reunion last week, and he said the same as me. I really appreciated it particularly when I got down to Illawarra the first time. You do your work in the forwards, and the backs that do the rest, and you'd win games alone. I thought, even at South Sydney, we struggled. Never, and it was certainly good to be back at Parramatta with that experience, and you could do the work, and you had guys like Jimmy Timmick and Jason Smith and McCracken that could really finish off the hard work done in the forwards, and Dean Pay he had a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge in the game. Was good to so it was a good period. We didn't it wasn't successful that as perhaps could have been or maybe should have been, but it was a good time. I think they did get to the grand final. I left it. I went to play rugby in South Africa in '98, and they got to the grand final in '98.
What was Coach Brian Smith like for you in '97? I've interviewed a few players and Brian himself, but a lot of players that played under him said that he was one of the best coaches that they've had. Yeah, no, he's a good coach. Brian was a good coach. Yeah, I enjoyed playing on him. I enjoy my football any coach, but he was certainly a good coach, very knowledgeable, and he had the experience. He was good, and it was a good team for him to have there because they were certainly experienced players, What would have
been... He got him to a grand final in '99. Then he had 10 years at Parramatta, did he? After,
yeah, I'm pretty sure he did, and pulled up stumps, I think, in 2006.
Yeah. And
before Brad Arthur held the record for the most games coached at Parramatta.
But Brad Arthur's got the record now, has he?
He does, yeah. Just overtook, I think, about 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Overtook Brian Smith as the longest-serving Eels coach.
And how's Brad Arthur doing, do you think?
Look, I think he has his moments. As a fan myself, I think some of his selections are probably a little bit skew-if. In terms of, I wouldn't probably pick the players that he would. I think sometimes off the bench, I think maybe that could be used a little bit better throughout the game. But look, he took us from a dark time in the mid-2010s to semi-final football, which we hadn't played in a long time. Got us to a grand final last year. So close, but yet so far. I honestly think maybe he's going to be under pressure, I think, if Parramatta don't make the finals this year, and he's going to be under pressure next year, but we'll just have to wait and see how he goes.
It's frustrating. It is frustrating for Parramatta, for the fans, particularly. I'm a fan now, and I just watch them play, and there's potential, and like they show they can do it, but there's just not the consistency in their performances,
Yeah, that's it.
Because they can look what they did to Penrith the last couple of years. On their day, they had a better run during the season over Penrith. Even the start of this year, they beat them in a close one in that field goal finish for the stadium.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
And I look at their backup. They send them blokes coming off the bench. There's plenty of support. I don't know. I wonder. It's frustrating to watch them because the consistency is not what you would think it could be,
Okay, so now I heard a little story that you had a trial for NFL. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, true. Everyone was speaking. I thought of it, but I didn't mention it because we got sidetracked elsewhere. But I'd always had this desire to have a crack at NFL. And the first time I got interested in NFL was when on a football trip in 1990.
Okay.
We went to the team went over. There's about a dozen of us, and we stayed in LA. And then this is after Hawaii. No, I went to Hawaii. Then a couple of me and Mark Donkin, who was administrator at Parramatta. I played with him at Hills, the Bulls.
Yeah.
We went to the LA by ourselves. And then when we were in LA, we went to the Coliseum where they had the '84 Olympics and LA Raiders were playing. Yeah. And I was just taken by the atmosphere, and what I was really taken by, the LA Raiders were known for their defence. So when they come out, when the defence side come out, because there's attacking side and a defensive side, the whole crowd starts going, defence. These guys in front of me, and then looking and giving me high fives and all that. And mate, I thought, this is great, this atmosphere. And they'll know, and I felt really like this side's known for their intimidation and their toughness, and they had that the pirate logo. Yeah. And then I thought, this is tough. And that all got in my psyche, and that developed. And from that point on, when I started doing the good, I think all these things contributed to pushing me on to hit harder and be a stronger tackler, all those little experiences I've had. Yeah. And from that point on, we used to get, I don't know if you get as many today now, but back in the 90s, and that we always get the college teams come over, the NFL teams at the end of the year. Yeah. They'd play a couple of trial games at Penrith Park and that sort of thing. And from that point on, and I know a lot of side guys were still going, coaches were still going over to getting a few NFL tips because Jack Gibson started in the late 70s. Yeah, that's right. Early 70s with these, the tackle counts. He got ideas. And his big thing was always defence. Defensive players and that. That's why Jack Gibson was known for his his teams were good on defence, but he always thought it was a cornerstone. Anyway, just the big, strong tackling, that really stayed in my psyche. So I thought, I want to try and I'd love a shot at this, just, doing tackling all the time. Yeah. And I used to try and hunt around for these teams that are coming out, and I'd go and watch a couple of games and I'd try and talk to a few people. And then nothing really went anywhere, and I sent letters away occasionally and did things. Then I got injured in 97, my last year at Parramatta, and I was out with an ankle injury. And I thought, I was getting late. I'm sick. I've been chased around. I thought, stuff it. I'm just going to do it myself. I'm going to get this was before internet, before email, before anything. I'm just going to get all the addresses of all the NFL clubs. There's about 20 of them. I'm going to get a tape to do it in PAL, American PAL system, put all my big hits together, because I've been collecting tackle tapes of the big hits. I got a big hits tape, collecting these tackles on these tapes, and I'm just going to send it away myself and I'll put a cover letter, and I end up getting 4 calls, but I end up getting a few letters and a few letters back. And one night I got this call. I was living up in Cronulla, and this guy goes, middle of the night, he goes, hey, you're Peter Johnston, the American accent. I thought it was a mate. Okay, yeah. But I thought, no, it couldn't be, because no one knew about it. I was out injured. No, I hadn't told anyone. Okay, yeah. Such and such from I forget his name. New Orleans Saints, and Mike Ditka. Now, have you heard of Mike Ditka? Mike Ditka was a hard man of the NFL in the 70s. Him and a guy called Dick Butkus and Mike Ditka, they were the hard men of the Chicago Bears. Okay. And they were the big tough tackling blokes. And Mike Ditka was coaching at New Orleans Saints. He said, Mike's had a look at your tape, and he thinks you could make, because in the tape I said I'd played NFL and American football in Australia. I hadn't, but I knew about it. But I just pumped it up that I said I'd been voted as the biggest hitter of rugby league that year, which I had the year before for a couple of years in a row. Anyway, they said, do you want to come for a try? And I had semi-finals on. I said, look, I got the semi-finals. That was my last game anyway. After the semis, They just paid for my ticket over to New Orleans.
Yeah, wow.
Got to the airport, and this bloke comes up to me, hey, Pete Johnston. I said, yeah, mate, yeah. Anyway, we get in the car, we're talking, and he says to me, I said, how you going? He said, well, matter of fact, he said, we lost our first 5 games. He said, we played such and such on the weekend, and before the game, Mike got the boys together. He said, and he put your tape on, the big hits tape, and he said, I want you to go out and tackle like this Aussie guy. And they went out and they won. They won their first game.
Oh, wow.
So I went I was there for a trial, but a trial was just not I put the pads on all that. They in the dressing rooms. I had a look around. They showed me around. But a trial was just a 40-yard run test, side to side, and all that, to see my movement. And I think that's where I come undone, because I didn't have that enough explosive power that went. But they liked the tape. I had a lot of coaches come up to me and say, mate, we had a look at your tape. You could really hit people. Yeah, and then a big thrill for me in the afternoon, the team come to the training park. It's a big training areas and that. And they come and then they're walking off at the end of the game. There's about 25 of them. Some big blokes, about 260 pounds, 6'6", big black guys there. And they say, and on the way through, they're all going, oh, g'day, Hitman.
Oh, wow.
Oh, God, g'day, boys. So that was a real thrill. And in the end, they offered me, this was 97, in the end, they offered me to come back and join their train-on squad, but I was up against all the college boys that had just come out, 21.
Okay.
And I had a contract at that point, but in the end, it fell through. So, but I went to play, and then I went on a honeymoon to South Africa, and ended up getting myself a gig playing rugby for a couple of years over in South Africa, teaching them how to tackle first.
Oh,
wow. Just got to get me in 98 and 99. So that was another story.
How close to maybe potentially being an NFL player.
Yeah, but in the end, if I knew my contract was going to finish, I probably would have taken that offer and stayed there in the train-on squad.
Yeah,
that's why Jared Hayne, he did remarkably well. People, he'd made the side. He was in the side, and Jerry. I saw on highlights of TV, Jerry Rice, who was a famous New San Francisco 49ers line wide receiver. He was a great at the game. He said he's Jared Hayne, he said he's got all the goods. He's cracked in the starting side. He's got a lot of talent. He was I don't know what happened to Jared Hayne over there, why he left, because he'd made the side within a matter of weeks. It's a shame,
Yeah, no, it definitely was. But, just imagine how close you were to making it in. You would have been one of the originals, maybe.
Well, there's a guy over there. I've done my research. There's a guy from Scott's College. His name is Colin Scott.
Yeah.
Colin Scott. I think he was from Scott's College or one of those college GPS schools. He went over to university. He'd already made it.
I think Big Zero had a trial over in Hawaii, I think, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he did when he was 21. When he was 21, before he came his league. But I was going to do it at the end of my league career, which would have been... But but it was an experience.
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Yeah, it was good, mate. It's good to get over there. But, I enjoyed that part of it. But,
That's it. Well, as fans alike, I can understand your pain and my pain and Parramatta fans' pain and having not won a competition in 37 years. But do you see yourself as a Parramatta fan these days?
Yeah, I played for the 3 clubs, but because Parramatta was in my blood as a kid, even as I said, we were these fans. We like Parramatta too, We grew up in the area, and they gave me my first opportunity, Parramatta. It was a club of my era, and I had my first opportunity, got my last opportunity there, league. So, I'm a Parramatta. So, I've got good mates at all the clubs.
Yep.
But I like to say the team. I've got a soft spot for Parramatta because they haven't won for so long. You just want to see them go well,
That's it. Well, time for some what I call common league questions. Do you have a favourite game that you played in during your career? One that really stands out? One that you thought, oh, geez, I really loved that game?
Yeah. I always liked playing. I had some good games against Brisbane.
Yeah.
For Illawarra, for Parramatta in my last year, and Illawarra, and I had some good games against Canberra. Canberra and at Parramatta. But when Parramatta. So one game probably stands out. One game stands out very clearly. I always think, it was a game we played down at Canberra in my '96. I was playing for and I was up against excuse me, Troy, I've just got to move rooms.
You're right.
I was in the room and the sun's got to get something. I was up against the Canberra was a really good side in those years, and I was up against remember was it Lomax?
Yeah, John Lomax. Yep.
And Pontier. I know pretty tough forwards, and I went down to Canberra, and the last time I played Lomax was in '95. Because you always, as a front row back then, you always look at who's your front row competition.
Okay,
you got this kid, And I had Lomax and Ponga, and Lomax had knocked me out with what I think I reckon was a high tackle. I went off concussed and I never come back. So I had personally think this, and I always had I remember I knocked him out with my head. And so it was like you had that bit, as I said, that confrontation, that rivalry. We had that when I played with it. You might have come out and said anything, but you knew you had to get on the top of your opposition for your team to go well. And anyway, I went down to Canberra, and and that night, I remember I was in a room with somebody, and as soon as I got to bed, I didn't realise this air conditioning was just going crazy outside my window. In a hotel. And I never got to sleep, and I still remember. I looked at the clock, and I'm sure I saw 5 o'clock in the morning. And in my mind, maybe I did doze off a little bit. I don't think so.
Yeah,
I hadn't been to sleep, and I hadn't been to sleep, and I hadn't been to sleep, and then I thought, shit. And the breakfast was at 7:30, 7 o'clock down in the room, and I thought I could sleep in, and then get down there late, and I'd feel negative. Because I haven't had any sleep, and everyone's all ready for game, and I feel worn out and tired. So it come about, I was still on and off sleeping at 6:30. I thought, I'm just going to get up, have a shower, and be first down there. So I'm ahead of the game, is mentally get myself right, in a better frame of mind. Because I started getting a bit negative, thinking, I'm going to play bad. I've got a real big game. Ricky Stewart, Laurie Daly, and Mal Meninga, Mal was retired then. Yeah. But they had a really strong side anyway. Got down there, and I got down there for the breakfast. Jimmy Dimmick was the first one beat me down there. He was having breakfast, and I heard him say he didn't sleep well too. That made me feel a bit better.
Okay.
Anyway, I went out there and I felt I had a really strong game. They had a tough pack of forwards, and I felt I took them on pretty well, and I had a really good game. And that was one of the games I looked and think, shit, I was up at, mentally, that's where sport, life, everything, sometimes you're faced with those challenges, and you got to just toughen up mentally. And I felt for my performance, I really come through strong that day, and I was proud of that game. But as I said, I always felt I played better when the big games, you're up against the bigger name players, and I always try to play that a bit extra,
Well, something must have happened that day because Parramatta got the win, and you scored a try that day as well.
And what else?
You scored a try that day.
Yeah, I scored a try. That's right. Yeah, I scored a try. Yeah. Scored a try. Yeah, that's right. I had a good game, and I still remember my brother-in-law says, "Pete, look at that. You're fast." He said, "You should have been a second rower." And I put myself as a front rower because I was always a second rower. When I went to South Sydney, my older brother said, I remember he told me, he said, "But you should be a front row. Your front rowers," he said, "front rowers get paid more. There's plenty of second rowers, but if you're a good front row, and you play more of a tight game," because I didn't have the experience to get out wide and run the ball and all that. The second row, so I was running fairly straight up and down like as a front rower. Anyway, so I asked the coach, Frank Carr, I said, "Can you give me a go up front row?" I never left there, but Nick always said, my brother-in-law always said to me years later, he said, "Pete, you should be second row, mate, get the ball wide." But I said, "Mate, I think I'm just stuck as a front row now,
That's it. Other than your home ground, did you have a favourite ground that you used to love to play at?
Yeah, I used to like Brisbane.
Okay,
and the thing I liked about Brisbane, the weather.
Oh, yeah, nice and warm.
I playing there because it felt good. It just felt good playing there with the sunny days. You go up to Brisbane on a Sunday afternoon and, you go to the game and there'll be lots of sunshine, the weather's warm. And I felt I like playing in those conditions, I had some good games up there. when we did play them. So I'm not saying it's my favourite ground.
Yeah.
Favourite ground, but you play anywhere. Steeler Stadium, I really love Steeler Stadium. It's for the same reason. In my first year there, we played. This one we used to play on a Sunday most of the time. Played on a Sunday. Steelers. The weather was really good. 95. A lot of home games in the sunshine. I really enjoyed that.
Did you have a least favourite one that you hated going to and playing?
Places like Canberra.
Okay, yeah.
Freezing.
Yeah.
Well, I never had a warm shower at Canberra. Never had a warm shower. Always cold. But that's why I liked the game. It was one of the best games. I was up against it.
Yep.
On the field. What had happened to me with a lack of sleep.
Yeah.
And it was freezing cold, and you got to really get yourself together, be prepared for a tough afternoon where sometimes in your mind you might run out. You go for your warm up, you think, I'd just like to be at home, sitting at home, in front of the heater, watching the footy, watching the sport, but you're going to do it,
That's it.
I still think of that now. Sometimes when I come home on a Sunday afternoon, nice cold weather, I used to think of those days. I'd much rather. And I'll tell you another place, Newcastle.
Okay.
Newcastle.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they had tactics. They used to they threw water on. They make all the
floor wet.
The floor wet. And whenever you'd go in there, the place would be soaked, and it was just like it wasn't. It's small and dingy. No, it wasn't great. I didn't really, and the crowd was always pretty hot. So it wasn't the crowd so much, but the ground and when I played in the sheds weren't real flash hot,
That's it. We'll wrap things up with a set of 6. So call the personality questions.
Yes.
You've mentioned a few sports already, but is there a favourite one outside of rugby league?
Favourite sport to play or to watch?
Or play, watch.
I don't play. I used to love. You did a lot of running. I'd say sport I love to watch is boxing.
Okay.
I don't do boxing. I've done a little bit of training there, but I like to see how people handle that pressure and the moment. When the moment comes, he steps up, and that's what I like. So I'd have to say boxing is a sport I follow and like to. I just tune in for the big fights.
Is there a favourite boxer that you've seen?
I love. Yeah, I'd have to say a guy called. Marvellous Marvin Hagley. He's passed away 2 years ago. I remember watching him in his fights when he fought Hagler. When he fought the Hagler, they say was the best fight. Many say it was the war. They call it a war. He did the best 1 minute, 3 minutes of boxing excitement. Have you ever seen it?
No, I haven't. I'll have to check it out.
If you check it out, the first round when he fought, I think it was 85, 86, and he fought. He fought Thomas Hearns.
Okay.
Thomas Hearns. They call it the war. The best round of boxing. The guy was tough. And I remember he knocked out Roberto Duran. Then he fought Sugar Ray Leonard too in another fight. And he got on Sugar Ray Leonard's comeback. But I'd say Marvin Hagler. The guy trained hard and he had that mental focus. And I've seen documentaries on him since the benefit of the YouTube and technology. You can see all that now. I've seen some documentaries about him. He was sort of a sportsman I really admired, Another one, the one, would you say sport? Or there's another bloke in rugby league, mate, and I saw him like Ray Price.
Yeah.
Mate, you can't go past it. Ray Price, I've said to him, I don't know if you remember, because I sort of probably chew his ear off but that guy Ray Price was acknowledged as one of the best union players ever to put forwards, ever to play the game and league. So when you put those two and two together, mate, that guy you show me a player that can have the record he's got. He's a fantastic player, Ray Price. And what a mindset and determination did he have,
No,
he took that. Sure. He was the leader of that. Like he appeared to be, from a fan's point of view, he led those sides to 4 grand finals, mate, just with his persistence and determination, mate. He was a real leader and workhorse,
Yeah, definitely lucky enough to have him
on the
podcast a few years ago now.
I have, yeah. What was he like?
Yeah, very interesting, and just felt honoured and privileged to talk to him.
He's a legend, mate.
Some say he should be an immortal of rugby league.
Well, as I say, I'd say the same thing, Troy. And if you watch him, and you talk to anyone who's watched rugby league all a long time, No one's ever seen him play like that, mate.
No.
Pricey gave it everything, absolutely everything, mate. He was and he was so targeted, you know. I think Peter Sterling, I've read, that said he's the best player to ever play for Parramatta.
Yeah.
He raised Ray Price. Yes. No.
Yeah,
anyway,
sure.
we've probably got off the question, mate.
That's all right.
I like talking footy, and I analyse sports, and I analyse. But that's why I like boxing. Because boxing is a real mind. You see the mindset of a person.
Yeah.
You see how they face their fears, how they're going to handle the opposition. You can see it in their determination and their body language. They come out, and I just enjoy that side of the sport, you know.
Ah, that's all right. We might have to tee up a volume 2, I think, in a few weeks' time, maybe.
Oh, yeah, mate.
I could talk rugby league for hours.
Yeah, well, when the semi-finals, I was away for 5 weeks. I've come back, and it's, as I said, what it's shown to me, that Penrith are standouts. They appear to be standouts, and Brisbane have pushed up to be perhaps grand finalists. But the momentum seems to have gone, like, it's time the season finished. To me, it seems a little bit long, you know.
That's it. What's your favourite holiday destination?
Oh, mate, I love here. My holidays, when I come home here, I have a holiday here at Thrill down at Wollongong.
Yeah,
nice. We live down near the coast here. I love the spot, mate. But I've been around Australia, so I know my country, and there's a lot of good spots. But I really love a family holiday. I've been a few times, so I'd say Hawaii.
Okay, nice.
Just like the relaxation there. Sometimes you go there. I love this peaceful, calm water. The food's good. Yeah, the women like it. Shopping's good, but the weather's perfect all the time. You know, I like that. So I have to say there and home, mate. Home's number one. I can holiday in my own house.
Nice.
I love it here, and maybe Hawaii. And after that point.
What's your specialty dish in the kitchen or on the barbecue?
Without doubt, chicken schnitzel.
Nice.
Ask my family, mate. I enjoy cooking.
Yeah.
And I cook a little bit. And my wife is from she's Croatian background. And so I can do a few Croatian dishes. I've got one of the moment. That's why I was having a bit of bite up before you phone. There's a little dish called filling a paprika. Stuffed capsicums. This stuff was mince and rice, garlic, and all that sort of stuff. But I'm good at another one that I haven't got any of my original dishes. My wife showed me how to do them, and then I've learned. I've done a lot of chicken schnitzels over the years. I'm probably my favourite one's chicken schnitzel. You know, put a bit of mash with it.
No worries, sounds nice for sure. What about a favourite musician or band to listen to?
Oh, mate, without a doubt, I'm a big fan of John Cougar Mellencamp.
Yeah.
Jackson Brown. The bands I like to go. Eagles. Can't go past Eagles. Fleetwood Mac. I like ABBA.
Okay.
And the more I hear ABBA music, I love it because I grew up in the ABBA music.
Yeah.
And the modern bands, I'd say Coldplay.
Okay, yeah. What's your favourite Coldplay song?
Oh, there's so many, isn't there? There's so many. Clocks is the original.
Okay,
When you hear, they got overplayed a bit, but when you haven't heard them for a while, you hear them again. That sounds Coldplay, but there's so many. Clocks is really good. They've got a few that I. And they've got a couple on their recent albums. I don't know what they're even called. I'll hear them at the shop. They've got a shop down in Wollongong. There's young staff plays, and I said, "Gee, I like that YouTube Coldplay song."
Yeah.
I can't remember the names, but Clocks is as good as anything. Clocks, that's one of their originals and best, you know.
That's it. And the last one: which 3 former Eels players wouldn't you want to be stuck on a deserted island with, and why?
Oh, mate. I can't really comment. But I'm an easygoing guy. I could be stuck on an island with anyone and get on with them all. I could say that honestly. Anyway, if I'm stuck with anyone and I've had to stuck on an island, Parramatta players, I got on with all my teammates. Got on with them all. I know there's probably something. I can't really think of anything really with anyone. But I got on with Kingy and all those boys, mate. Jason Bell, Drakey, all those boys. I started my career with those guys, and then I went and then they come back and play later. But mate, anyone will do, mate. I'll get on with everyone. Troy,
Nice.
that's the best answer, mate.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, Peter Johnston, thank you very much for joining me today on the Para Cave podcast. Look, there were some really interesting stories there. I'm sure the fans will love it, and it was great to catch up with you a couple of weeks ago at the Parramatta Eels reunion. And as I said before, I probably could have talked for hours about rugby league because you just got so much knowledge and interesting stories about it. So thank you very much for coming on the Para Cave podcast today.
No worries, Troy. Thanks for having me. Enjoyed being here. Thank you, mate.
How you going, mate? Are you a Para Cave podcast listener?
I am, bro. It's a great podcast. Everyone tune in.
Go Para. Well, welcome back, and thanks for listening to Peter Johnston and his rugby league stories. There was certainly some great yarns in there. One of the ex-players who is really passionate about the game. You could just hear it in his voice, in his stories, and some really great yarns there. And I really didn't know about the NFL trials as well, so that was something very interesting, and it just amazes me. Well, not amazes me, but amazes the fact of the Americans so interested in Peter and his tackling technique and his big hits. And that is obviously something, hopefully, that the Americans will see in 2024 next year when the doubleheader goes over there of the NRL. But it certainly shows you that they sit back and take notice of rugby league players, and they certainly enjoyed Peter's big hits. You can find them on YouTube and check them out because, as I said, he had a great tackling technique and one of the biggest hitters in rugby league. Not just me saying it, but ex-players as well. So thank you very much, Peter, for coming on the podcast, and we will chat soon, that's for sure. Now, to the sponsors of the podcast, once again, a quick shout out. Thanks to Jack's Pale Ale, the fantastic major sponsor of the podcast. It is available to purchase in the club shop. Perfect for that Eels fan or beer lover. As I said, available in the club shop. And keep your eye on the social media channels as to see what is happening at Parramatta Leagues Club each and every week. Also, co-sponsors Beau Cook from Loan Market. His contact number is 0401 213 236. Get in contact with him for a free chat and see how he and his team can help you get on top of your home loan and find you that best deal. Also, find that he is available on Instagram as well. Beau the Broker, I think he goes by. So some great tips on Instagram as well. So give him a follow. BTZD Teamwear, as we mentioned, you can head to btzd.com.au, check out their range of team sportswear and see what they can do for you. And Shannon Cooney from Glenmore Park Realty. Get in contact with Shannon today and any day, 7 days a week, on 0421 588 445 for service from a 5-star real estate agent in the Glenmore Park and Penrith LGA areas. Please support these businesses that support the podcast that help bring you quality entertainment each week. Share the love on socials as well. Now, to the Para Cave podcast merchandise as well. You can purchase a Para Cave podcast hat for the sensational price of $10 each. It comes with the new podcast logo, so all you need to do is just email the podcast at the paracavepodcast@yahoo.com and order yours today and get in touch with me and we will arrange that to happen, and I'll get that out as quickly as possible as I can. Also from BTZD Clothing, I think it's 1XL and 2 large polo shirts as well, Paracave Podcast polo shirts as well, for $25 each. So check those ones out. You'll see me in videos wearing them. They look great. I've had a big response for those so far as well. So same deal, just either email the podcast or get in touch via the social media channels and we'll get that one happening as well. So really thank you for your support on that one. Also, don't forget the official media partner of the Parramatta podcast, the Parramatta Times. For all your local Parramatta news, just simply head to www.parramattatimes.com.au. Also, don't forget on a Friday and a Sunday, not this Friday, but definitely on Sunday, I'll be on Pulse FM 89.9 FM about 7 o'clock for my chat with the Duckman about the rugby league round. So Sunday will be a review and Friday nights are usually a preview, but not this Friday, but every other day as well. Before I go, stay tuned tomorrow as well for a game day preview of the Eels versus the Roosters with the guys at Roosters Mania TV. They're on Instagram, so if you're a Roosters supporter, give them a follow. But that'll come out as well tomorrow, so stay tuned for that one. Have a great week as best you can. Enjoy the footy over the weekend. Hopefully your team gets up. Make sure you follow the podcast on the social media channels, both on Instagram and Facebook. But to sign off the show, and as I always say, the Para Cave podcast, by the fan, for the fans. Go Para!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Parramatta Podcast. See you next time.